Okay, so this is the part where we're going to jump into open floor discussions. Before we kick off general discussion, though, I wanted to take a minute and talk about how we make this table. All right. So I'm going to just quick glance at the time. It's about 12:36, about an hour and a half. Okay. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to also chop this out and make a separate recording. So if anybody wants to refer to it later, we'll have it quick link to it. This is a table that we use to show how we're weighted across our. You can do this for a whole portfolio. You can do it for an individual account. And it shows our weighting relative to our benchmark. So what I have here, this is the column for how much by percentage, how much of our account is allocated to each. This group up here is the country class. The next group is the countries, and then the last group, of course, is the sectors. And then it shows the same thing on how the ACWI is allocated. Now, this data is built into the spreadsheet. And what this column drives off of is this tab here called Lookup Tables. And you can see I've got the ACWI allocations by country, by sector, and by country class. And this is the results of the data that everybody pulls together when we do our biannual update of our ETF Top 10 Holdings spreadsheet. So all that data goes in here, onto this tab. That same data also goes into the super journal. And I'll show you where that is. And start out with, let's look at ACWI as a starting point. You can see ACWI, I've got the breakdown for how it's spread across sectors and how it's spread across countries in these two tables right here. But the table actually goes a little bit deeper. It goes to individual countries and sectors as well. Matter of fact, let's call it, oops, let me do that. Let's go back to ticker and look at EWU, it's United Kingdom. Here you can see EWU is broken up and it shows the sector breakdown for that country. It shows the name of the country. It shows what its parent ticker is. In this case, it's EFA. EFA is developed non-US markets. And then the super journal then actually goes lets you even go further down than that. Let's look at HBC. Yeah. HBC is HB Holdings PLC. This parent ticker you notice is EWU, which is utilities. It's with the financial sector, and its country is United Kingdom. So when I go through the process of what I'm about to show you, this is how all the data rolls up. So if you have an investment in HBC, when you were to export the data, you would see that proportional amount of money show up in financials. You would see it show up in United Kingdom, and you would see it show up in developed US. So all the data that's in the spreadsheet that we're about to export, that's where it comes from. So those two pieces are the basis for the whole spreadsheet. Before I go any further, does anybody have any questions or anything like that about where the data is about to come from? Okay, it looks like everybody's good with how the data is there. So the next thing we're going to walk through is how to get it out. Okay? So what we do is we start out with this button here called Tools. at the tools, under the Tools tab, there's a link here that says Refresh TOS DDE Data. I'll click on that. It's going to give us two steps. Step one is to export the open transaction tickers, and step two is to launch the test TOS DDE communication utility. Now, some time ago, Microsoft pushed a security patch that made this stop working. So the procedure I'm going to go through actually includes the workaround for this. And I've posted that workaround in the community. If you go to, let's see, let's find the Super Journal group. And let's write this here, recent push from Microsoft affecting SuperJournal tools. This gives you the procedure to walk through that I'm about to show you in the video. Because I can't run it the old way, that's what I have to do. So the very first thing you do is you click on this Export Open Transaction Tickers link. And that's going to come up and give you a prompt. Please confirm, say yes. And you see XML export successfully completed. You can launch the Open Transaction Tickers utility by clicking on the link on this page. Say OK there. Now, this doesn't work anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to Excel. I'm going to right-click on the Excel 2010. I'm going to go to Properties. Under Compatibility, I'm going to change settings for all users. And I'm going to select Run this program as administrator. Say OK, OK. And now I'm going to open Excel. What you're going to notice is it gives me that security prompt. I'm using Windows 7. This is what it looks like for me. So I'm going to say yes here. And it will open Excel. And then I'm going to open the file that we just created. The file we just created is called OpenTransactionTickers.xls, and it'll be located in C Program Files SuperJournal. It's always going to be the same file name, and it's always going to be in the same place. So we'll click on that. And it's going to tell us that it has links to other sources. We're going to tell it we want to update. And it now says Open Transaction Tickers is launched successfully. Click the Pull TOS data to open to begin. Now you have to have TOS running while this is happening. I do have it running. I've got it open on the other window. So say OK here, and click Pull TOS data for open tickers. Processing has begun. Wait a few minutes. It really only takes a second or two. Refresh completed successfully. And if you want to check your results, make sure you have real numbers and everything. You should see valid numbers right here in this column. One is the delta that you have if you own the position. Some other number is the delta you have for options. Now, one thing you have to do here is you have to make sure you save it. If you just close, even though you've made changes, it will not save automatically. At least it doesn't for me. So click on Save. And then we can close this. And then I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to just undo what I just did to Properties. Go to Microsoft Excel, right-click it, go to Properties, Compatibility, change settings for all users. And I'm going to turn this off now. I no longer need to run this program as an administrator. Okay, so I've done that. I'm done with this page. What I've just done is I've exported the data that I have. I've gotten TOS to tell me what the deltas for my open positions are. So now I'm going to go to the report center. What I'm curious about is I want to see what is my diversification. So I'm going to come here to the diversification link and click on that. It's going to say I need to have done what I just did. So say OK there. I want to make sure my output destination is a spreadsheet, and that's going to be the file name that I use. And then here's the report that I'm going to run. So the first report I'm going to run is for country class. I'm going to run it against my RTT LTI IRA account. That's what I've named it in this journal. I'm going to include cash. I want to set that to yes because cash is part of my position. And I'll put what that balance is. And you get your cash balance by looking at your TOS account. And it'll say cash and sweep vehicle, $836.87. So I want that number right there. And then I'm going to click Run Report. It says File exported successfully. I'll say OK. And now what this is going to do is this is going to update the same report with the different tabs, the same file with different tabs, one for each report. Now I'll run it for country. Then I'll run it for sector. Okay, so I've just exported the data from TOS that tells me what I need to know. So now I'm going to open up my LTI comparison tables. And the first thing I need to do is I want to have a new tab. Now I could update the existing tab. I've just gotten into the habit of making a new tab each month. So I'm going to come over here and go to Move or Copy. I'm going to click Create a Copy. And I'm going to put that down here. Okay. I'm going to rename that tab to today's date, which is November 23rd. And this is where I'm going to put the data that I just exported. So the first thing I need to do is come over here and open the file I just created with the report creator, and it was called lti.xls. And that's going to default putting that into your My Documents folder. Of course, this all assumes that you're using Windows. Sorted by date. Okay, you can see here's the file LTI1 created at 12:47. Yep, that's the one I just created, so I'm going to open that. And here are my three tabs: country class, country, and sector. So now I'm just to make it easier, I'm going to come over here to View, going to Arrange All vertically, so that I've got the two files sitting right next to each other side by side. Over here in that file we just exported, I'll copy that, and I'll come over here to our comparison tables, and you notice I'm on the tab we just created, and I'm going to paste values. Okay? You want to paste values just so you keep your formatting is the only reason. So we've pasted those values there, and a quick check to make sure everything worked right is notice it says 120, 340, 58. Come down here and look at our net liquidation value in day trades is 120, 340, 57. If I'm within about $10, then I'll say that's good. But if I'm much further off than that, that means I either have bad data. That typically means there's a trade that I made that I did not enter into the journal. And I'll go back and run it again. But, the two numbers are the same, so we know that the totals are good. Now I'll come to the country tab here. I'll do the same thing. I'll copy the country and amount. Come over to my LTI comparison tables. Paste values, scroll down. One other thing I also check is I make sure that I'm actually pasting the same number of cells as I have existing already. If you don't have the same number of countries in the journal as you do in the spreadsheet, you'll get a difference there. And that's pretty easy to fix frequently. That just means it's a country that may have a zero value that for whatever reason, didn't get added to the journal. And then I'll do the same thing. Oh, by the way, notice the total here is 123.40.58. I also check that each time just as a double check. And then I'll do the same thing with sector. Copy that. Come over here to sector, base values, and I'm done. Now the math, now I can close this, I'm done with it, and maximize that. The math right here uses a 1% threshold. So if this number is 1% less than this, it will say, or 1% or more, it will say under. If it's within plus or minus 1%, it will say equal. And if it's greater than 1%, it will say over. And the color coding I actually do manually. You can automate that as well with conditional formatting, but I haven't done that. I just manually go through. And so as I go through, I look at this where equals are all clear, under, overs are red, equals are all clear. Scroll down. We're underinvested in Canada. We actually have 0 invested, whereas our benchmark is 3.7%. And then same thing with sectors. So that's how I create this comparison table. And one of the reasons I make new copies each time I run it is I find it useful to go back and see sometimes and say, all right, where was I allocated here? You can see I was overweight France, Italy, and Netherlands here. Since then, that's France and Netherlands, but I'm no longer overweight Italy, which is way down here now. So I hope that answers your question on how I create this spreadsheet, where the data comes from, how it's built, how it's exported, and all that good stuff. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything like that? Rand says, was the LTI comparison table spreadsheet generated by SuperJournal, or is it a template you created? I actually created this myself. One of the nice things about SuperJournal is there's so many different reports that different people want. Brian set it up so that he could export data in all sorts of different ways. So this is a way that I wanted to view my account, so that's why I set this up that way. Of course, don't forget to hit save. So did that answer your questions, Rand? Yeah, so once you start with the basic template, everything is in here, but you will periodically need to update this, as well as anytime you add a new ticker to the SuperJournal itself, you'll need to update that related information. And that's why, as you're going through doing that, you'll see that's the value of it. If you want to see, excuse me, if you want to see where your positions are allocated. I think it's a great tool. Very handy for seeing, especially if I sell something where I want to move money when I close from and to when I close something. See, where do you put the initial deposit in SuperJournal? I'm not sure what you mean, Rand. You can unmute yourself if you like. What do you mean by the initial deposit?
Yeah, Andy, so if I were to set it up for the first time, if I want to put in an initial deposit of $10,000 that I'm going to allocate, where do I put that money?
The SuperJournal, if I understood, Graham, and it was a little bit, I guess got a little echo there while you were talking, but the SuperJournal doesn't hold, I mean, you can create a cash position in here. I do not have a cash position in here, so I don't have a initial deposit that I enter in here. I simply have the cash balance when I run the report. So the only positions I have actually will go to, I'll show you positions. you can see the only positions I have are the ones that, let's see, that one says open, but I also know that there's nothing in there. So the only positions I have are the actual ticker positions. I don't put cash in this at all. And then let's see.
And just a quick question for verification. When you start out with your account, you want to fund your paper money account with 100,000. You don't put that in a super journal?
I don't put what in the super journal?
Well, you have to fund your trading account. Otherwise, you can't do anything.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, I can show you where to do that.
Okay. Thanks.
If you go to validation lists, this is the data that's in most all the drop downs. And there's one here that says positions, and within that is accounts. So here you would simply just type in your new account name. Set it to active. So we've got 2 active right now, and of course we closed this account earlier this year, and just because it was not something we wanted to follow anymore. So that's all you do is you create the account right here. You name it whatever you want. You can put your paper accounts and cash accounts all in the same journal. And then when you go to enter a new position, say I want to add to SPY. I'll use that as an example because I've got add at 2 places. So when I look at it, you can see here's all the trades I've made in our synthetic account for SPY, and it's under synthetics. But if we come down here, you'll see this is one of 3 records. So if I look at the next record, this is the one with the asterisk that we closed, and there's our IRA account. So this shows what I've done with SPY in that account. So anytime when you create a new position, you do the same thing. If I go add a new position, I need to tell it which account with that drop down.
So you wouldn't be able to tell with a super journal how much remaining cash you have, especially in an IRA, that you can deploy? Yet I haven't seen the initial cash balance yet.
No, unless you set up a ticker that you call cash, and then actually went in every time you bought something, reduce that position, you could do it that way. Otherwise, what I would do is I would use simple addition, subtraction. I'd start, I'd actually look at what was my balance back then, what is my balance today, sort of thing.
And that you would do outside the super journal?
That's the way I would do it, yes. But if you wanted to, you could create a new ticker. Just come here, add a new ticker. You could call it cash. And this is my money. Category. We could create a new category called cash and separate it that way and leave it like that. Now, if I wanted to, I got to select. Okay. There. Sector, what's a sector? And again, you can create, if you want to do it differently, you can go to the validation list and create a separate sector and call it cash, a separate industry and call it cash. You know, set that up however you want. And what is it? What country ID? Gosh, dog it. Now will you let me go? There we go. So now I could come in here and say, I want to look at cash. I actually need to add a new position because I don't have one in there yet. And type cash. And you could do it that way. And just say, find record in the table, match. Pick an account. All these with asterisks by them, you need to put something in there. And then I could say, okay, my cash balance to start is $100,000. And then later on, you could come down here and say, okay, well, I'm going to, let's make that cell so it comes in positive. And then later on, let's say I spend $100 to buy ticker ABC. So I just come in here to cash, and I'll reduce that by $100. Oops. So you can use the Super Journal to track your cash. It just makes more entries, is all.
Okay, good. Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
And do you have a copy of the template somewhere in Java and you?
Do I have a copy of what, Ram?
A template, a copy of the template that we use for the LPI.
I'm getting breaking up from just about everybody who's been talking. I apologize. Do I get a copy of? Copy of the Excel template in the Dropbox. You're talking about, okay, yes, thank you. I apologize for that, Ram. Yes, just about every week, and it'll be in this week's also. I actually put it in the presentation material. So what I'll do is when I zip up the presentation material, I include that file in there, so you can pull that right out of our meeting. I'll show you where. Let's see, this goes places. So if you want a current one, just go to the presentation material and click on that, and that's going to open up a zip file. And in that zip file, you will see the LTI comparison table.